Yo, what is going on? It's DJ Crowley. It's Simmer Down live from home once again. And speaking of once again, man, I think Giant Panda Gorilla Dub Squad wins first prize for most interviews I have ever done with a band. I think this is number six. James, what's going
Big
on,
up.
man?
So good to see you, brother. It's like an old, running into old friends, but it feels like no time has passed. Like I was sitting out backstage with you at Club Gemini and Cali Roots like 2013, 14. I don't even know. It was a long time ago, but it feels like yesterday. And it's good to see you. It's crazy how that works.
It is, man. We're going to talk about time here in just a little bit. And you were just talking about all these shows from the Paradise Rock Club show, with Clinton and the movement most recently to Cali Roots Carolina in 2014, man. The Cali Roots when we run into each other at the after party in 2015 to all the way back, and I'm talking all the way back to when you guys played Blue Cats in Knoxville back in
Wow.
2000, like four or five. You're the
Yeah.
first band that ever invited me into their van and said, "Hey, where can we go get some food?" And I was like, "Waffle House, man. Go check
Yep.
out Waffle House." So, we go back so far, and I am so, so excited to chat with you, especially about this new record. And we're going to get into it, man. But first of all, how many years have you guys been a band now? 20?
Definitely, official Giant Panda Gorilla Dub Squad with that name. We've been going for 19 years. This is our 20th, would be in 2004, was our first show with that name. So yeah, coming up on 20 years official, but I mean, as anybody who's ever been in kind of a band that's like morphed and twisted and turned as your life changes, uh, it's been going on for, since the early 90s in that respect. So, I've been playing with Chris, the drummer, since I was about 13, 14 years old, pretty steady. And Dylan, the guitar player and songwriter in the band, he's been kind of our musical hero and advisor since we were, yeah, like 12, 13 years old. We were going and listening to his band. I was just listening to one of his bands from the 90s just the other day called Ripe. Ironically enough, it was like that was the band we got into. It's called the Ripe Band. And just, I mean, as good, brilliant songwriting that he's doing today, it existed back then, and we knew it as little kids. So the band's been going my whole life, and I'm 40 years old, so it feels like a
What
lifetime.
what's the key to it, man? What's the key to longevity in a band? I mean, a lot of people say different things from, the band members to the fan base, family, I like to call this, that. What's the key?
I would not be able to tell you. I always like to think that love is the key in general to each and everything that you go about doing it. And the band stems from a deep love and appreciation of everybody that we were around, kind of when we started out, and wanting to make those people proud is one of the major components as to whenever times get really, really rough, or we come to a situation where we're not sure how we're going to be able to continue, which has happened a couple times, like a handful of times. There's always that thought of, oh, but what about the reason that we started this? What about the people that we want to honor? Some people have passed away. What about just that it's always brought us to positive places and around positive people and really shape the direction of our lives. So the key is kind of just to stay humble and for I'm just speaking for us, like the key that we have found is to stay humble and appreciate what you have as a group of people who are even able to get together and work creatively and then travel the country and then make records that people that you've never even met enjoy or find inspiration in. Usually the reasons to stop like don't aren't greater than the power that kind of manifests in the people in the band. So the people that leave the band come to a point in their life and that they realize hey, this isn't for me right now. This isn't, and everybody knows it when it happens. And it's just Giant Panda Gorilla Dub Squad kind of has its own pulse in that regard, in that there's no real leader. Like a lot of the day-to-day work sometimes has shifted on me through the years, but that's just kind of by like default, because like I don't even know it. It's not because I would be the best at doing it, but maybe it's because I'm the bass player. Bass players often feel that need to kind of like be the support system. But that being said, nobody's ever making the decision like, oh, this person's in, this person's in, this person's out. It's just kind of like a musical community, and it's turned into an institution that kind of just like pulls the right people at the right time. And also, you know, we've learned to like gently say goodbye for now to some people that have left the fold, but then, you know, even come back into it. So that's been the goal the whole time, is to develop an institution, kind of a band from Rochester, New York, that, you know, anybody that's been a part of it can feel like they can always be a part of it, even fans, even family. It's just kind of a team thing, a point of pride. So
Absolutely.
that's my meandering answer about like the key that I don't have, but I continue to search for, and it keeps coming back to the love for the family and the friends, the hometown, all that.
It sounds like you do have some kind of a key there. That sounded pretty right. You said remember the power of music when facing times of trouble, you know? It is so powerful. It's such an interesting thing that you said that Giant Panda Gorilla Dub Squad has its own heartbeat, you know. That's powerful.
Yeah, it's been, you know, it's saved a lot of us a lot of times. So
Yeah.
grateful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you guys are just tuning in, you are late. It's okay. We've got one of our just, man, personal, absolute favorites in the house, James Searl of Giant Panda Gorilla Dub Squad. I got to get into it, man. Love in Time, April 7th. It's coming. How stoked are you? I want you to tell us about this record because we are so stoked about this thing.
Well, first of all, we've never had like held on to the vinyl um before we've released it to the world. Usually the vinyl is an afterthought, and we get it 6 months or 7 months after the album comes out, if it even gets made at all. So this album, Love and Time, has had a lot of intention and a lot of foresight, and I feel like even just being able to hold the record um is a symbol of that. That we really wanted to make something that was going to last and be solid, and you know, continue to paint our legacy as people, with the relationships that we have with each other and the relationships that we have with our family and friends, and then how that extends to the rest of the world. We wanted to make something that feels like it has an even greater reach in all of those directions, so to the micro and the macro. And how can you create something that is infinite when you have a start and a stop, or the record only contains so many grooves, you know? And the way that we try to do that is to pump as much love and true feeling into the songs that we're writing, and then we try to put that down on a record. And so this, every time we do it, it's every time we go into record and go into make music that we're going to share, it's an experiment in trying to get deeper into that product. And each time we come out with a better outcome, but this time we really took our time and had a lot of amazing community aspects to the record, like reaching out to other camps of musicians and other camps of producers and people that inspire us musically. We've often, for, you know, not for any like philosophical reason, just because of logistics, have kept a pretty close, tight circle when we record. It's just like the time and the money, where you're at, how, you know, how much focus you can really put into it. But because of the powers of, you know, the universe, and the ways that things are, good times and bad times, led to the circumstances that we were able to take a lot of time to manifest our love in this record. Because like you said, like, what is the key to sticking together and what is the key to longevity? Well, there is no ultimate key, because it is going to end sometime, you know. Like everything's going to end, you're going to die, all that, you know. Bands, you know, whatever Pavement says, and cut your hair, you know. Bands start up and break up each and every day. I can't remember the lyric, but it's really true. So as much as we keep manifesting and keep the longevity together, one day it's going to stop. So it's really important to us to try to get down as much as we possibly can. And, we feel like we've gotten down like 9 to 10% of what we've wanted to in our lives. And then in our careers is the same. So, you know, it's very important to us that we like that we like this record and we love this record, and that it reflects purely what we were trying to do and lasts longer than we do. And we feel that we got it on this one. We might feel differently in a year. It's always funny, the temporal relationship you can have, like with your own work. You release it to other people, and then they have their own relationship with it, and yours might completely change based on how that goes. So
Yeah. Love in Time. It's coming out April the 7th, 2023. It's coming up very soon, man. Less than a month. Check it out, livepanda.com. And hey, you were talking about vinyl, man. I was reading the other day, the first time since 1987,
yeah, that's right.
vinyl records are outselling CDs. Why is that?
I just think that the people that are going out and purchasing music are very invested in that activity. It's not something that maybe there's been people in the past or in the past 20 years who are either just listening to the radio, or, in the past 10 years, they're just turning on a streaming service and seeing what happens, but they might not be really listening to the music, or it might not serve as that kind of focused activity for them. And maybe it might. I'm sure that it runs back and forth, up and down, every which way. But vinyl, I think, was something that people took for granted for a long time. Having like a nice package, like a big square that you can take and hold and look at while you put it onto the record player and the needle. And the thing that I've always kind of thought about records is that once the side is over, you have to turn it over, or it like keeps rubbing on the needle. So it's really, you have to be sort of engaged. You can't just put it on and really forget about it. You're going to have to come back soon. And so I think that, especially, the other side of all this story is that streaming music isn't there to buy. So the people that would have gone out and bought 50 CDs 25 years ago just stream it now, and they wouldn't have bought the record one way or another. But I don't know. Those are all just guesses.
Yeah, I
But
mean,
I grew up listening to records, and then spent a lot of my life listening to tapes. And I was never at the time of the change thinking that I would ever go back, or when CDs were the thing and then they stopped being the thing. I never thought I'd go back to CDs, but they each kind of do have their own sound, and for me, take me to a certain place. So I'm sure that some people will end up being nostalgic for MP3s or whatever at some point. But
it's all about the physical, man. Having that physical thing in your hand is so important. I have a mountain of CDs,
yeah,
and when I left the elevators, came back home, got some time to myself and everything, met Blue, we got this PLX here, and just really started building a record collection. And I think everybody's kind of got the same vibe now, man. It's going back to vinyl, this stuff. And it's just so powerful. Hey, if you guys are just tuning in, once again, you're late. It's DJ Crowley. We got James of Giant Panda, Guerilla Dub Squad in the house. Love in Time is dropping very soon, 4/7/23, livepanda.com, man. Personally, we're calling record of the year. I mean, these first two tracks have absolutely blown us away. We heard Chance, and it was just like, it's one of those songs that I like to call it a "Can You Feel It" song, where you feel it down to your bones. It's not just you're hearing it, you're feeling it. And then Revolution comes out, which is a different feel, yet still goes with the record and is so powerful. You got our boy Josh from the Movement on it. You got Goody doing all of his goodness, and it's just, I can't wait. We can't wait for this record. We really can't.
I'm so happy to hear that. And it's like, all we can really do is put faith into it. We, of course, it does mean like everything to us that people enjoy it. And that's completely, at the bottom of our gut, that's our hope and our really wish. We really want people to love this record, but that is also like a touch more vulnerable than I feel like artists have even like been in the past. There's so much music coming out right now, and there is so much amazing music. The one thing I love about music and talent and creativity in human beings is that there is no finite number of people that are going to be some of the most talented people you've ever heard or making the best music you've ever heard. There's no limit on that. It feels like maybe there must be, but there really isn't. So, every day there is some of the finest music being played and being released. So it is a little, definitely not even a little, it's extremely intimidating to, in this time, try to put something out and hope that people even give it the time of day or like the attention to climb into that infinite love in time that we're trying to that we created, that we want people to join and hop on the ship and enjoy that feeling with us as much as possible. So to hear you say that, it really is very encouraging. We hope that people go and check it all out and take their time with the music. That's again, one thing vinyl is so great for. It really encourages you to take your time with one album and maybe listen to it 50 times instead of just once.
Mhm.
And with things like Chance and songs like Revolution, those are the culmination of 20 years of making relationships and inspiring each other and learning from each other. And Josh and Panda have talked about having a track together since we met each other in Gainesville, Florida in like 2008. I've always wanted to make music with Josh. We even did like a music therapy type of workshop for a week together in Charlottesville. We spent some really quality time a couple years ago just kind of like learning about the power of music together and how it can help people, which we see him doing all the time. And one of the funny things about Revolution is that we recorded it, but we haven't played it too many times. And we went to play it, or we didn't even record everything on it, but it's a song that was created in the studio and not live. We didn't like try it out. So we've been trying to decide, are we going to sing Josh's part? Or are we going to I have another verse that I wrote there originally. Should I sing that part? But we're like, no, people want to hear Josh's part. And, we would cover a movement song. So it's totally cool to do that part. And we got Eli, the guitar player, trying to sing it. And, we still haven't nailed it yet because Josh is so rapid fire fast.
Dude.
And
Yeah.
the way he flips around lyrics and rhythms. And it's just like, it's top level. And it's really cool to have whatever happens live, we got it on the record and it's there and it's dope, so and then Chance, for the depth of the feeling of that song, we really owe to the One Drop, to the creation of the One Drop rhythm. That was a
Yeah.
song that we just wanted this meditative one drop feel that we didn't feel we had gotten to explore before on a recording. And that song was very spiritually very important for me personally. When I was writing it, it was a really important special time, and I needed to see it through. I needed that song to be recorded. I needed it to exist and be out in the world. If I had let it go, it would be one of those things that I would have always regretted. So I'm really happy that it's there and that you are enjoying it and feeling the point of like how deep it's supposed to be for like medicinally. And thank you for sharing that with me.
Oh, I from homies like Melodos, Marco, formerly of Roots of Rebellion, to people like Stick Figure, everybody, just that thing came out and we were just all just like, whoa,
Respect.
this
Appreciate
is
that.
it, baby. Like, this is it. Hey, and also, man, Giant Panda Gorilla Dub Squad collaboration
Yeah.
is a huge thing on this record as well, man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It,
Absolutely. I mean, it's always been that's what people ask us a lot about the name and they're like, what does it mean? And in the beginning, it meant just to have a name that nobody else was going to have. So we didn't get confused with anybody else because we were called the Bomb Squad. And there's like we were going to different cities and being confused with other bands. So, Matt O'Brien, one day we walked into the house, he's like, what about Giant Panda, Guerilla Dub? And we were kind of trying to finish the name and figure out what it was. And it was just such a wild thing to be represented by. But over the years, different parts of the name have kind of been more identifiable in our lives than others. Like there was one time that we were super getting into dub, and it really felt like the dub part of the band was shining. But then there was like the Guerilla times when we were like setting up in festivals with like solar power and just like playing anywhere we could, and it was just like everything was contained, and we were boom getting on the ground. You do this, you do that. We're squad. There you go. Getting everybody else that wasn't even a musician even in on it, and really just laying out the whole concert field out of nothing, out of scratch. And Giant Panda, the animal, also is something that has kind of inspired us. Or you like look at the world and the existence of the giant pandas in China, and what it represents to China, what it represents to the zoos in the United States. It's a whole political deal just to even get a panda at a zoo. We have to pay China like $1 million.
Yeah.
So we like and they're from Tibet, which is being destroyed for like deforestation. They're from the Sichuan province, but their land, the panda's land, is being taken away from them. And so we've just found that all of the words in the name are nice to focus on at different parts of our career. And right now it is about squad. Like it is not about that there's just 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 of us. Like we don't even know when we're going out on the road necessarily how many people are going to be there, not because people can't show up, but because we have people to pick and choose from, and the times in their life are picking and choosing. So we're able to really reach out to this community that we developed, and that's developed with us over 20 years. And this record has people like Kurt Johnson on lap steel, who's somebody from Rochester, New York, but he plays with a million amazing bands, extremely talented musician, all the way to having Clinton Farron on chants, or De La Botry from Ghana, West Africa. And there's just different people down in Florida that are friends with Dylan's family that are playing on it. Laura Hanrahan, Tony Galicchio, our keyboard player's wife, sings on the album on like a couple songs. Like she's, supporting the vocals. So we really reached out and had a great time making it.
Yeah, man, the squad. That's really, really, you just explained that whole thing so well. Like each word from your band name happens at different times. That's so cool, man. And thinking of the squad here, I really wanted to touch on Clinton, man. He is just such a light. How did you meet him? How did this all come together with him?
Well, there's first of all the story of us finding out who Clinton Farron was, which is that when we wanted to start playing reggae music, you know, turned out that reggae was the music that we had heard most in our lives, though we didn't realize it. Like, you go through your like grunge phase and your punk phase, you're listening to metal and hardcore and funk and Fish concerts, and you get into like Led Zeppelin and all that, but the whole time there's like Bob Marley's playing, Toots is playing, Sublime is like kind of taking you to the dance. They're putting in a lot of reggae ideas and famous reggae bass lines, famous reggae hooks, like real Jamaican cultural elements are being thrown into the Sublime music. And it wasn't even that they didn't give credit. They did it in the style that it was being done in. And that all got to us. And then for me, I went and saw the Wailers play randomly. I didn't even know I was going. It was like a local University of Rochester has a field day outside. And I was maybe still in high school. And I went and checked it out. And I'm standing in line, literally getting a hot dog. And I start just like, oh, like my backbone, I didn't need it anymore. I'm just jamming. And I realized, oh my God, that's Natural Mystic. Like that's the Bob Marley song, Natural Mystic. I listened to this album 1,000 times. I know every note of this song, but I didn't even think about that. That was maybe my favorite music. And who is it? It's Family Man playing bass. And it is drummy Zeb, who was Zeb Williams, was the drummer for the Wailers for like over 25 years. And he's, because of the way of the universe, has become a good friend, and his sons have become good friends of mine. But that was the rhythm section, and that moment changed me forever. You know, I was like, I've never seen this in person happening. I've only heard it, but to watch somebody play the one drop and to see Family Man, I was deep into playing the bass at the time, and I come from low frequencies. I always loved banging on the low notes of the piano when I was a kid. I always loved drum and bass music from Rochester, New York. When I was 12, people were starting to listen to jungle and stuff, and I was like, "What is that? What is that thing?" You know,
Yeah.
and really got into like standing by the subwoofers at concerts and all that. But I didn't realize that it was all like reggae's like the that's like the more so that's
Yeah.
the center of where that comes from. That's where the infinite source of that low freak love is. And I put it together when I watched Family Man play every bass line that had like been in my heart since I was 11 years old and given a Bob Marley CD, and then everything that came from there, like finding all the bootlegs, you know, that were had all the songs that you didn't you know, that you weren't as familiar with from like Legend and Natural Mystic and all that stuff. But so I just listened to that music almost passively, like not even knowing it. And when I saw the Wailers, and then a couple weeks later, I saw John Brown's Body, and that was really
Mm.
together because I'm like, okay, these guys are not from Jamaica, and they are playing this music very respectably. This isn't punky. This isn't like ska. Like I of course seen a million ska concerts and like never made the connection, nor did anybody at the time make it for me. Um, that it was a direct link to Jamaican music, but and this reggae low freak thing. And you know, when we saw John Brown's Body, that's when I started writing reggae songs. I started remembering that Dylan Savage, the guy that we've been seeing in this band forever, he always is playing reggae music. He's been in
Mhm.
African bands and reggae bands. And you know, ironically, around that time, we started to start to run into each other. But we went to David Gould's house. I saw an ad that he was giving lessons, and he was the bass player in John Brown's Body. And he played bass better than anybody that I had seen next to Family Man. And I was like,
Mhm.
that's the source. I'm gonna go hang with this guy. And and he gave me some really cool lessons where like he was playing drums and I was playing bass, and we kind of work on drum and bass stuff. And then eventually I invited my band over and we played him some recordings. He's like, okay, you guys are a reggae band. Like, we understand that you're trying to play reggae, you're playing reggae, but let me give you some recordings that are going to help you really understand what this music is about and take you to school. And one of the three CDs was The Gladiators.
Mhm.
And so back to roots, and that didn't leave our CD player or our van for many, many years. We had it forever. And then we started kind of traveling around, and we got this CD. We met this man named John Watson, who's still a great friend of ours, came to my wedding and everything, like, you know, 25 years on this. It's John is squad. He's part of Giant Panda Guerilla Dub Squad, even
Mhm.
though he brews beer in Connecticut and like has a family and, you know, it's never come on the road. But we,
Right, right, right.
you know, that's like the squad mentality. And he gave us the Live Gladiators in Holland, 1981, which I feel like is with Family Man. I'm still like, I actually asked Clinton Fair on this, and I still haven't gotten a response. So Clinton, if you're listening, hit me back. And in that stack of CDs also was like Clinton Farron and the Boogie Brown Band playing live, and also a Clinton Farron album, Me and My Guitar. And it was kind of we heard him play Chatty Chatty Mouth on the Me and My Guitar, um, or it might have been Rich Man Poor Man, and that's when we're like, wait a second, he's playing a Gladiator song. Wait a minute, whoa, okay, this guy is a gladiator, you know?
Yep.
And so that's how we found out about Farron. And then we started like hearing Love is the Conqueror, and that all his albums, I mean, it never stopped for him, you know? It's so inspiring, especially as we get older as artists, to really come across players and creative people who have continued to just work and create their whole life, and their sound has never suffered, and it's remained fresh. And you know, it's really only a certain kind of artist that can pull that off. It's a lot of hard work, and it has to come from the inside, and Clinton Farron is one of the finest examples of those artists. And so we took note of that and really started paying a lot more attention to him. And I think one time we went out to Seattle. We were with Simkin Project and Expanders on this tour that we called In Roots We Trust. And someone shot him a message on Facebook and was just like, hey, we're in Seattle, we'd love for you to come to the show. And God bless this guy, so humble, so respectful, and just like down to earth, came down to the sound check,
Hmm.
talked to us, introduced himself, was just treated us treated us on the level, which he did, he didn't have to, because he's a very good person. He does. And he came in, he said, I'm a little under the I was a little under the weather, so I'm not going to come out tonight for the show, but I wanted to come and give respect, pay respect. And we're like, give respect to who? We're so happy to meet you. And the relationship flourished from there. And we really wanted to bring him out. We still don't understand. I mean, Clinton is huge in Europe and South America. He told me a story, I think, of going down to Chile at some point, and he didn't know any Spanish, but everybody knew all the words to Chatty Chatty Mouth. Or like, they just, people love his music all around the world, but we don't see him in the United States booked at these big reggae festivals. And
Right.
That was one of the things in 2018. We were like, we really want to see Clinton Ferron play, but he's only playing on the West Coast. How do we get him over here and start getting to see him play out here? And it was like, well, maybe we can invite him to come play with us, and we can back him on a couple songs, and he can play acoustically and open up the show. And we presented that idea to him, and he was the one that was like, what if we call it Roots to Branches Tour? And we're like, okay, he's in. Like, he's vision, and he respects it. And it was a great idea. And that was we went on, we had a nice tour together. And it was during that time that it was like, I really want to get a song together that's gonna be able to be recorded with him. And it took a couple years to like have all the pieces fit and come together. But that's our relationship. I know that was a long story, but Clinton Ferron and our knowledge of him and like coming together to meet him is one of the best manifestations of being in a group and not playing. It's like, we don't play necessarily just like rock and roll or anything. It's because we like decided to go down this reggae path that we meet and are inspired by such beautiful people as Clinton Ferron. So very great.
It's so cool to hear that story, and it's really cool to see a lot, well, not a lot, but some of these just OG roots artists like Clinton, he's a part of the squad with you. You look at DC, Don Carlos. He's a stupid family member now, like, and
love that how they do that too, like,
amazing. And it's so cool to see that squad collaborative kind of effort from both sides of our genre, coming together. And I think that's such a powerful thing.
It's so lucky for us, man. It's like, these are there's Clinton is a young guy. Like, he's ready to create. He's there doing it, and that's what artists are. They just stay that way. So
yeah, we're talking about so many amazing things here with James from Giant Panda Guerilla Dub Squad. Love in Time 4/7/2023. It's coming up less than a month. We're so excited about it. Got a couple more questions for you, man. So you were kind of touching on almost like a mystical moment you had just a few minutes ago with the show you were at, and then JBB and all that stuff. My good buddy Marco from Melodos and formerly Roots of Rebellion, who is
my good buddy as well.
Oh, dude, let's just shout out Marco.
One of the best musicians I've ever come across, man.
He's just
wildly talented person who also works very hard.
Yep.
It's a lot of respect for him.
So he had a question for you, and I thought it was really, really cool. What is the most memorable, mystical, musical moment you've ever had to date when it comes to your band and the stage and that kind of energy?
I mean, that would be a really hard question to just nail the answer of, because when you're playing music, whether it's in the living room or the basement or down or on the stage, it's kind of like, for me, it's you're not escaping, but you're like traveling to a very familiar island where the island so well, and the island moves with you, and it's a place that you've like visited your whole life. You kind of know the boundaries of it. Um, you know where you can go and where you can't go. Um, and when you stop being so overwhelmed by like the 3D reality of that island and looking at the whether it's the trees or the rocks or the sand, and you're able to just live there, you start kind of going to other really interesting places.
Mm.
Sometimes I find myself like up in the attic of the first house that I lived in with my family, like looking out the window to my dog who's down at the bottom in the backyard. I was 2 years old. That's like one of my earliest memories. But sometimes when I'm playing music, I just all of a sudden I'm there, and
Mm.
and it's like you go to the island that is like the musical place, but then it kind of like rocks you around to all these really emotional spots in your brain. So I feel often that I am resonating with past spirits, friends, relatives, but also I'm open to the idea, and I'm not like a 900 like medium or anything, like dial up, and I'm just I feel like that's the only kind of thing that I can describe it as, and even if it's just happening in my brain, it really feels very real. That like, oh, so and so has entered the room. Oh, Chris and Matt's dad is here, at the venue, and he passed away in 2001. Or like,
Oh.
oh, there's my grandmother, like she's holding my hand and watching me play, and it's not like I'm trying to manifest that, but that's sometimes where you go, and those are all extremely spiritual, profound moments, but they're not something that you can focus on at the time because you have to keep playing. You're like I want to go talk to that person, or I want to reach to that spot more, but I have a job to do. I'm
Mm.
making this happen for everything needs to keep happening the way that it's happening. The island needs to keep existing for us to go further. And somebody else right now is maybe having a different experience. And for that reason, it's like, playing music in a group, taking psychedelic mushrooms, and having sex. I know it sounds kind of like maybe that's like outlandish to say, but a lot of them are a very similar kind of like in the moment feeling.
Hmm.
I can relate a lot of those things together. That it's just like you can't really talk to somebody in that moment. Like you can't really like exactly describe what's going on, but you are there, and you have to keep doing what you're doing to like keep the moment happening. And so just who I am, I feel like when I walk from the green room to like on the stage is like two very different people to me. And I
Uh-huh.
know that the one on stage is the real me. I know that this is more like, not that it's on stage, but like when I put on the bass and start playing music with people in a certain way, reggae really provides that foundation to get there. It's not, things are very solid to kind of create that rolling atmosphere and spiritual kind of platform and plane to start exploring. Um, but so whenever I kind of go into that, I feel like I'm a little bit more myself than when I'm like here, even talking to you, or like when I'm having a conversation, like going to the bank or like the post office, or like you're like having to really find that fill that space of being like, okay, yes, we're here in the three dimensions of Earth. I have to make sure I don't get hit by a car and all this stuff. But when I'm music, it feels like we're traversing beyond all that. So
Very, very cool.
I'm sure it might sound a little like hippy dippy, but there's so many moments that it would be really hard to tell one for Marco. But one experience that I come to all the time is that there was one show that we played in Paonia, Colorado, which is a
Uh-huh.
very small town in between like Aspen, and it's like a half miners and half artists that live there. So it's very much looks like the old west, but it's also like super psychedelic. And
Mhm.
we our van broke before we traveled up 70, like right as we were leaving our engineer Joel's house. It broke. He happened to have like a Pathfinder that could pull the trailer and all of us. Oh, it was snowing on the mountains. So we're going to make it up. So we're 6 or 7 of us packed in this Pathfinder, towing the trailer. Are we going to make it to the gig? Um, Dylan, our guitar player, is like very, very sick, like
Oh no.
coughing, hacking, like just went like very sick, like he should be in bed and he's
Hmm.
not. He's next to me in the backseat of a car with like four people in it too. And it just everything was terrible about that drive. It was scary. We finally got to the venue and uh we're late and all the crowd's already there, which is like never happens. Like it, was never happening at our shows. But and the guy who's running the show, his name is Smith Boone. He's a really good guy. Did
Hmm.
radio out there. He comes up and he's like, "Okay, guys, the show is sold out. Like everybody's here. You have to go out on stage and set up, and get this ready to go. You guys are going to play two sets, right?" And we were
Hmm.
like, "Oh, we hadn't really planned on that. Like Dylan's really sick. Like maybe we should just do one set." And he's like, "Okay." He's like, "I just want to let you know, there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of families and stuff, but a lot of people have eaten mushrooms and they're there and they're waiting for the concert and they're like, and they think there's going to be two sets."
Oh.
So we're like, "Oh my god, okay." The other thing that I hadn't mentioned about this experience was that we had like played for 2 weeks and then taken a week off where I had flown back to New York to see my girlfriend, now wife at the time, and like had a cushy like, week of hanging out with the girlfriend and then back to meet up in Colorado to do these shows. And at one point I had like gone in the hotel hot tub like after a show. And either way, the next night I played and my fingers were so soft that like all the skin came off. And like
No.
beyond past a blister, like a blood blister, that I had to really figure out how to, whenever you get a blister playing the bass, people have all these different ideas about how to do it. They're like, "Oh, you need to get liquid skin," or "Oh, you need to, tape this way and then that way and this way." And I did a million things until basically I had like what felt like gloves on around my fingers. I couldn't feel anything. I had no idea, because if you tape around your finger, the grooves of the tape are going to catch on the bass string. So you got to tape all the way around and then you have to tape over.
Right.
And I had this liquid skin going on because it was just like blood. Like it was just bloody
Oh
down to the
man.
bits. And every time, like you think you can play through it and you start doing it, but then your brain has this automatic shut off system eventually where it's like, "Nope, your finger will not touch that string again.
Yeah,
Like it's
exactly.
damaging." Like, and so this was the show that like my fingers had just totally had it. And I'm like, "Okay, Dylan's sick. Everybody here's tripping. Kind of like
Yeah.
the vibe good. My fingers are killing me. What are we gonna do?" And we like walked down on stage and we played two sets, and it
Hmm.
was like 3.5 hours, 3.5 hours of music, a lot of music. And we played like 10 or 11 songs. And this was just like, we jammed, we improvised. I didn't know what I was doing on the bass, but I know that it sounded good and it felt really good. And we had not, just to be clear, like we had not taken any mushrooms or any
Hmm.
drugs of any kind. We were just there to play, and already like not really feeling great. And man, that was definitely probably the most fun I've ever had playing a show. And I think about it all the time. And I bring it up as an example of like the flip side of that is like sometimes you'll get flown to a show and someone will pick you up at the airport and they bring you to the hotel and they got all the spread of all your rider there and there's drinks and like you're at the pool or whatever hanging out, and you walk on stage and you play like kind of just like a sort of sub show for
Yeah.
you feel like you're being set up to like knock it out of the park, and then you get up and you're like, "Oh, that wasn't the highlight of the day." Unfortunately, when it that's the reason why you're going. That's a very shameful feeling, even if the crowd loved it, it's like you're like, "Oh,
Right.
I came all this way and like
Yeah.
that I didn't get what I wanted."
Hmm.
And I don't want it to be the case that like we have to be sick and like packed in a vehicle risking our lives in a storm to play like the great show. I want to have the nice treatment and then also play like the very good show. And yeah, occasionally that happens, but that one particular Panda show was special. And that was just like the power of the energy of the people in the room, honestly. Like that's what did it. I mean, there's something to that. The contact.
There is. I was talking to Mike Love, and he was talking about, just talking about that as well. The power of the people in the room can just literally energize you to the point where it's like, oh, let's do this. Like we got this.
Absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what it is. I mean, there's another weird thing that happens for performers, I'm sure, everybody can relate to this in one way, but like the 15 minutes before you're about to go on, not only are you like nervous and anxious, but like you almost are like, I think I gotta go to sleep. Like, it's almost like the most tired you might feel all day. And like all of the traveling and all of the energy you've been putting out kind of hits you then. But then you step on stage and you're like, ready.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
see it with our drummer the most. Like Chris is not gonna try to like stay awake in the green room 50, like he'll be there asleep with his hood like over his head 5 minutes before we have to play
Yep.
sometime. Like it's hard work, man. And like he gets on the drums and just crushes it, dude, every single time.
He's
I
so
don't know how
good.
he does it. And I don't know how he does it. And people look at me and they're like, I don't know how you do it. I'm like, I don't know how this works, but this works. And you got to give thanks to it. And you got to kind of be humbled at the power of music, the power of audiences and doing things live. So, yeah.
Yeah. You say, again, remember the power of music when facing times of trouble. Everybody out there, all the artists out there, and the family, people that listen to music, remember the power of music when you're in a time of trouble. I've had it so many times in my life where I'm like, man, this sucks. And some new record comes out or something, and it's new music Tuesday way back in the day. Now it's new music Friday, whatever, and it just changes your life or your mind, or you go to a show and it just happens. What a great story. My favorite part about that story is the PM or your homie or whatever was like, by the way,
Yeah, he's like,
everybody's tripping.
yeah, he had to think of it. He had to tell us, he had to be like, okay, I know you guys might not be feeling this right now, but everybody's feeling it right now. So you're gonna need to like step it up. I'm just to be clear about it. Like,
Wonderful, man.
going
What a great story, man. That's just absolutely fantastic. Hey, man, just a few more things for you. It's been such a pleasure chatting with you. What's coming up, man? I know you got Love in Time, which we're just so ready for, man. What you got coming up?
What we got coming up is that we're going down to Florida on the 25th, and we are doing the spring break. It's called the Spring Break Reggae Festival, but it's at Jerry's Tiki something. I'm sorry, I'm not saying the name right now. I feel terrible about it, but the reality is that they've been doing this festival for like 7 years. And they're always inviting super Irie artists, reggae, fully reggae. We're going to be there. Earth Cry from Jamaica is going to be there.
Nice.
That's I love. Like I've gotten to see them a couple times. They're like out there doing it. I know Sense Emotion is going to be on that. We love those guys. A bunch of some other acts are great, and we're Pacific Dub is going to be on there. So we're going down there for just the one night. And then we're releasing this album slowly. We're playing 420 in Boston, which is a spot that we've held down for like 8 years. I think we've done a lot of 420 shows in Boston. Big family out there.
Yeah.
Boston, massive, good crew. And we're going to be doing some festivals this summer, but we're kind of just been laying low. I know that like people remember the pandemic sort of, and that they think it was a million years ago, but we feel like we're kind of still like emerging a little bit from that whole time and getting our families like settled and feeling okay. So we want to see how this record does. We want a lot of people to hear it. We want to be able to spend that time in people's houses and in their in their shared times of like joy and pain without necessarily having to like risk our lives for it by like just going out and dogging it on the road, which we have done a million times, and we're like kind of addicted to it, and we have to like chill out. Like we have to tell ourselves like, you can't, Paul Simon got a song, how long you think you can run that body down? And it's like, till forever, till I die, like till, I'll do it forever. It's fun, amazing seeing like Bob Weir out there, like just killing it, just older people. We're not there yet, but we definitely aren't trying to just go play every single venue on every single night of the year to try to have people like listen to our music or come out. We want to make this record and we want it to spread. So we want people to share it and just, take the time with it and enjoy it. And then when they really want us to come, we'll be in a better position to do it.
Right. And you guys have done it, man. You guys have been there, done that, groove this, groove that, been through the trailer problems, been through, road
Yeah,
problems, all of it,
we've done
you
it all
know.
except for the like not have a problem. No, we've had many. I shouldn't say that. That's being that's taking it for granted. We've had a lot of times when everything's been totally smooth, but it always does feel like there's like one thing that you got to take care of. It's
Yeah.
not just like you know totally smooth operation getting out there into the American wild and making your music or any other continent for that matter.
Absolutely, man. Hey, it has been such a blast catching up with you,
Love you,
James.
man.
It really has, man. It's always with you guys, whether it's you or Dylan or Chris saying way back in the day, reggae's a wild word. I'll never forget that one. I mean, Tony and Eli, man, I got to meet Eli and chat with him a little bit more, get to know him. What a wonderful person
That's amazing.
he is as well. And just you guys are just very, very, very sacred and very special to me and us
Same.
and our family that we like to call reggae music. I want to go all the way back to the very, very beginning real
Crowley,
quick to
you're a
close this
squad though.
off.
You're also a squad. Like this is squad mentality. Like that's sort of squad. I just want you to know that. Like, we love you.
Hey,
So I'm
thank
sorry I
you.
interrupted your question.
And then, well, hey, you can interrupt my question by saying that I'm part of the Giant Panda Squad.
Yeah,
I'm okay with that, man.
for real.
So I want to go back to the very, very beginning, man. What the first song that I ever played on the radio, ever, first number one
Wow,
track,
for real.
Sunshine Dub.
Ah, oh, I
Can
love you.
you can you
I love
can
you.
you tell me about that song? I just want to know a little bit more about it.
I would love to tell you about that song. Not many people have asked. So Sunshine Dove is the last song on our first studio record, Slow Down. Um, the songs for that record were written between like 2002 and 2005, and that song particularly was written while staring at a building in Rochester that's on the corner of Andrews Street and St. Paul. And it's project housing that's like two giant apartment buildings that have a that have an adjoining balcony on every floor, and then they have these balconies that are just like jutting out from every which way, and it just kind of like always caught my eye. And there's this kind of dark but light energy to it as well. And I used to deliver pizzas, and I would always be delivering to that building, and I'd be going up the wrong flight. I'd always go in the wrong building, and I'd have to take the elevator up to some floor, and then I'd cross over the like balcony to the other apartment building where I would deliver my pizza. But there was all sorts of people that were living there, and all sorts of things going on. But like some of the things that were going on is like people were like smoking crack on like the balcony and like on the bridge that you're walking by to get to the other building. And there's just like you kind of like have your guard up when you're 17 or 18 delivering pizza. I guess I was like probably 19 years old. And I was just finding myself at that building a lot. And I would be delivering like during sunset. And Rochester is a really beautiful city, like the skyline. And I've been fortunate to grow up in a home that had like a view of that skyline. So I've been looking into the city my whole life.
Hmm.
And I've just been seeing the buildings, but the realities of what is actually happening inside of them, it's like pretty from the outside, but like but there's also a lot of like pretty stuff happening on the inside. There's like nice families having the times of their lives and going through this and that, people in offices, people inventing things. So it's always kind of like taught me from seeing the whole city as like a big perspective to never forget that like in somebody's room, they're not really seeing necessarily that full perspective if they're inside the city. But when
Right.
I finally like was delivering pizzas to this building and crossing over the balcony at sundown, I would realize that like, wow, this building, these two projects have like one of the best views of Rochester. It's so beautiful, like the river, and like the sunshine hits just right. It like comes through the balcony in this crazy way that makes all these patterns on the wall. And I was like, this building is kind of where it's at. Everybody that I'm interacting with here is really nice. There's some people might be, getting high on the balcony, but they're doing it in this like beautiful sunset that's like having, I don't know, it's like a lot to say. So I would like I lived in the apartment across the river at the time with Matt and Chris and the squad. That's where like we were really kind of going out on tour and coming back and all living in this loft together,
Right.
loft apartment. And I could see the building from my room. So I would sit and play guitar, and Rochester, New York is just like this place that has so much melancholy. There's so much light and dark to the city. And like I hear that in the music from there, and I see it in the art that comes from there. There's just this comfortable feeling of like, it's not too bright, but it's like wholesome. And these Sunshine Dub for me was like the musical representation of that. So it's got this dark kind of murky melancholy beginning with the chords, and then it goes up, it has a very strange E flat chord that it goes to, which was like the strangeness of Rochester, and then it like finally resolves in the chorus on an E major, which is like sunshine for me. That's like the brightness, and that's like really what the foundation of the song was. And then the magic that happened with the tune is that we recorded it in Pyramid Studios in Ithaca, New York, which was like a big destination studio for us to go to. It cost a lot of money at the time, and we were like saving, playing gigs, paying for it. And it was mostly like Matt and Chris and I were going to record, and Dylan would come down and like lay down his parts. And we were kind of in between keyboard players at the time. Matt Goodwin was the keyboard player that started the sessions. And then Nate Silas Richardson from JBB at the time finished it. And we had just met Rachel Orkey, who would become a part of the band for a long time. And also a partner to Matt O'Brien and in Thunderbody, and, brilliant, amazing musician. We had just met her, and she played melodica. And she just like came down to the studio one day and laid down melodica on Buffalo, which was the first track.
Right.
And then went in the booth and laid down the melody to Sunshine Dub. Pretty much, I think, just like off the top of her head. I don't know if we had like jammed it before at our house. But I have lyrics to that song, and I was going to sing the lyrics. But then when I heard Rachel play the melodica, I'm like, this is an instrumental. Like, we need to just have this melodica be the voice. Because it perfectly fits like the mood of the song. And one other really cool part about doing that is that Dylan plays the sticky. It's just like gun 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 gun, matches the bass line. But we had Mike Parker, who's like the studio engineer, holding the wah, or not the wah, the whammy bar. And so Dylan's playing the sticky, and he's just like doing the whammy the whole time, because like maybe some players could play the sticky and like do this whammy thing the whole time, but that wasn't us at the time.
Right.
But like that was like the first time I was like, wow, a studio trick. That is cool. Like, we couldn't do this live. Like, that's such a good idea. Oh, this is awesome. This record's gonna be so cool. And so that's the story of that song, and it's one of my favorite. I have 3 songs that are based on that building in Rochester. It's Sunshine Dub, Moonshine Dub, and a song called Building Dub. Are all written looking at that building and just kind of like, it's like in Ghostbusters, there's like an energy coming from the museum or whatever, or the library. That's like kind of like how I felt about that building. I'm like, every time I roll into Rochester, it's one of the first things you see on the horizon, and I'm just like, yeah, there she is. I can, hi, like acknowledging your energy, building. Thank you for the songs. Thank you for the inspiration and the vibes. So that's the story of Sun and Dub. Thanks for asking. Yeah, Rachel has that thing.
Oh man, what a great chat, man.
We opened with it.
Dude, thank you so much. I love you guys so much, and please keep doing what you're doing. And everybody out there, 3 words: love in time. 4-7-23. Easy Star, baby. They're crushing it. The Panda will never stop. We'll see you next time, okay?
Big up, respect. Thank you, Crowley. Thank you, everybody. Simmer down now.
Peace and love. Simmer down, baby.
One day at a time. I believe in chance. I believe in music.
it all. I believe in love. I believe in spiritual. Give yourself a chance. Help yourself to heal it all.